People who keep their social circles incredibly small aren't just introverts who dislike crowds or people who struggle to make friends. They are actually operating a highly advanced psychological filtration system that never really turns off. And what most people don't realize is that this intense selectivity doesn't usually look like outright antisocial behavior or a sudden dislike for humanity. It doesn't announce itself, it just shows up in the quiet, full body relief you feel when someone suddenly cancels weekend plans. It shows up in the heavy exhaustion that hits you after just 30 minutes of meaningless small talk, or the way you can instinctively sense when a new acquaintance is going to drain your energy before they even finish their first sentence. To truly understand this, we have to talk about the concept of the social battery, but let's look at it through the lens of an economic energy budget. Think of your emotional energy as a strict, finite investment portfolio. Every time you engage in a social interaction, you are spending a portion of that capital. When you engage in small talk with a stranger, you pay a fee. When you listen to a coworker complain about their weekend, you pay a fee. People who maintain large social circles often have a high tolerance for these microtransactions. They spend small amounts of energy everywhere and receive small, quick returns in the form of casual social validation. But if you are someone who keeps your circle small, your brain is fundamentally wired to view this kind of spending as a terrible investment. You are not interested in spreading your emotional capital thin for low yield returns. Instead, you operate on a philosophy of deep investment. You want to pour your energy into a very small number of high value assets, relationships that yield deep trust, absolute vulnerability, and profound understanding. You instinctively realize that human connection is not about the quantity of the interactions, but the absolute unwavering quality of them. This behavioral pattern is deeply rooted in how your brain processes stimuli. Neurologically speaking, highly selective people often have a lower threshold for dopamine rewards when it comes to superficial socializing. For an extrovert who loves a crowd, casual mingling triggers a rush of dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. It feels genuinely good to them. But for you, the dopamine payout for making small talk is practically zero. In fact, it often feels like a chore, a cognitive load that your brain has to work actively to process. Your brain saves its chemical rewards for moments of genuine authenticity. You only get that rush of warmth, that feeling of safety and connection when you are engaging in a conversation that actually matters with someone who truly knows the messy, complex reality of who you are. This means that your brain operates like an incredibly advanced filtration system. Every day, you are essentially running a complex algorithm, taking in the massive amount of social data around you and meticulously classifying it. You sort the valuable, meaningful connections from the wasteful, draining noise, automatically discarding interactions that do not serve your peace of mind. This brings us to the concept of trust, which is the absolute cornerstone of the small circle psyche. For people who curate their friendships heavily, trust is not freely given. It is a fortress that must be earned over time. You don't hand out access to your inner world just because someone is friendly or fun to be around. You are deeply observant. You watch how people act when they are stressed. You notice how they speak about others when they aren't in the room, and you pay close attention to whether their actions align with their words. This hypervigilance often stems from a history of having your boundaries crossed or your energy depleted by people who took more than they gave. At some point in your life, you likely realize that the cost of letting the wrong person in is astronomically higher than the temporary loneliness of keeping them out. Therefore, your small circle is not a result of you hating people. It is a result of you loving and protecting yourself. You have built a beautiful, secure sanctuary, and you are simply exercising your right to decide who gets a key to the front door. There is a fascinating psychological phenomenon known as Dunbar's number, proposed by British anthropologist Robin Dunbar. It suggests that humans have a cognitive limit to the number of people with whom they can maintain stable social relationships, usually capped around 150. But within that 150, there are concentric circles of intimacy. The outermost layers are acquaintances, moving inward to casual friends, then close friends, and finally the innermost core, which typically consists of just 3 to 5 people. For individuals who prefer a small circle, the outer rings are essentially pruned away. Like a master gardener who cuts away excess branches so a tree can focus all its nutrients on producing a few magnificent pieces of fruit, you prune your social life. You instinctively understand that to maintain 50 casual friendships, you have to dilute the amount of time, Love and loyalty you can offer to the three people who actually matter. By keeping your circle tight, you ensure that when your best friend calls you in the middle of the night in a crisis, you have the emotional reserves fully stocked and ready to support them. Your loyalty is not scattered, it is deeply concentrated and incredibly powerful, but this lifestyle is not without its challenges. Because you filter your world so heavily, the loss of a single connection in your inner circle is devastating. When you only have three pillars holding up your social roof, losing one feels like the whole structure might collapse. You feel the sting of betrayal or the ache of growing apart much more acutely than someone who can just seamlessly blend into a new friend group. Furthermore, you often have to deal with the guilt or the pressure projected onto you by a society that glorifies constant networking and extroversion. You might find yourself exhausted by the expectation to attend large gatherings, or you might feel a pang of insecurity when you see someone else's vibrant, crowded social media feed. But it is crucial to reframe this narrative. You are not missing out on the human experience. You are just experiencing it at a much deeper, more concentrated resolution. When you finally strip away the societal expectations, you realize that keeping a small circle is a profound superpower. It means you are highly comfortable in your own solitude. You don't use other people as a distraction from your own thoughts. You have likely done the hard, quiet work of getting to know yourself, making your own mind a pleasant place to reside. You don't need a crowd to validate your existence because you have anchored your self-worth internally. Your relationships are built on a foundation of absolute truth. There is no performing, no wearing masks, and no exhausting need to impress. You can sit in pure silence with your close friends and feel entirely understood. So, if you are someone who keeps your circle small, do not let anyone convince you that your world is too quiet. Your world is rich, it is safe, and it is meticulously designed. You haven't built walls to keep everyone out. You have simply built a beautiful garden, and you are being mindful of who you let walk through the flowers. Take a moment today to appreciate the incredible peace that comes from your selective nature, and perhaps send a quiet message of gratitude to the few wonderful people who have made it inside your circle.